We want to turn our attention to another health topic today on this Thursday afternoon. A local doctor is working to create a new awareness in the medical community by educating patients on how their own nutritional choices are key to helping them beat cancer. Really interesting stuff here. We are joined today by Dr. John Puthalil, the author of this book here. It's called Surviving Cancer. Want to welcome you, doctor, this afternoon. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
So let me start with this. When I hear those things that diet and healthy eating can help curb your risk of cancer, it sounds like it makes sense to me, I guess, on a basic level. But do you subscribe to that?
Well, let's take exercise, for example. If lack of exercise or improper exercise is the cause of cancer, most of the cancer should be in people 70 plus.
Okay.
But that is not the case.
All right.
Sure.
And children are having more and more cancer all around the world. And that cannot be due to lack of exercise.
Sure.
So I don't subscribe to that. Now, cancer is increasing in India, in China, in Africa, in South America, even here. But the cuisine, food is completely different. So if food is the cause, what can it be? But there is a commonality in all these,
And what's that?
and that is grains.
Grains.
What kind of grains?
When you feed grains to cattle, what happens?
They get
They fatten them up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
In my opinion is almost all cancers in the world are grain-fed.
Interesting.
But any kind of grains, because sometimes you hear like some of the ancient grains like spelt or something are better, obviously, than some of the more refined grains.
If you take 100 grams of whole grain, that is 80 grams of glucose. If you take
right.
100 grams of, 77 grams, refined grain is 80 grams glucose, for whole grain 77. If you take 100 grams of wheat, it is 65 grams of glucose. So you're essentially eating pure glucose when you are eating grains.
And that's what you think is fueling the problems.
The cancer is uncontrolled multiplication of a cell.
Right.
In order to multiply, the cell needs two things. Just like construction of a house needs materials, the cell needs construction materials that are nutrients. In addition to that, the cell needs energy. Where is that energy coming from? A normal cell can get energy from fatty acid or glucose. When you are fasting, your body is still producing energy from fatty acid. Whereas cancer cell can get energy only from glucose. So each time you eat grain or grain flour products, you are eating glucose and you're feeding your
Fueling
cancer
it.
cells.
And doctor, I see you brought in some examples. What is this exactly?
Instead of grains, if you eat lentils, you will get all the protein you need, all the dietary minerals and fiber you need without having to feed your cancer cells. Whether you are eating bread or
I do want to ask one question. You mentioned the increase in cancer. Are we
Right.
talking raw numbers? Or are we talking percentages of people as well on the rise?
there are 14 million people with cancer 2012. And that is going to be 21 in about 10 years, 21 million, 50% increase. And the cancer death is going to be increased by even 60%. And this is happening, most of the cancers are happening in Asia, in Africa, in South and Central America. 70% of the new cancers will be in these areas.
Well, doctor, it sounds like we all could read your book. Again, Surviving Cancer, Dr. John Puthalil. Thank you so much for being in to
Thank
talk
you
about
for
a very
having me.
important
Thank you.
topic.